Hi there. I've been running some lessons on music theory on my channel here, and I think people have really been enjoying it. They're just learning about how chords all fit together and all that sort of thing. What I'm going to do now is do a video on applying that stuff to the guitar, because there's probably a little bit of a misconnect between here's music theory, here's my guitar. I get this, but I'm not getting how I can do it on this. And fair enough, it's a bit of a complex thing at first. So, first of all, what I advise is if you haven't seen the music theory lessons and you're not too sure about music theory, I've got 3 videos up at the moment, and they cover it just up to the basics so that you're aware of the notes in keys and the chords in keys. If you're already aware of notes and keys and chords and keys, then don't worry about it. But if you think you probably should maybe go and watch that, then do so. I'll put the links in the description below. It's a good idea. If we're going to apply music theory to guitar, we probably should know music theory. So what I'm going to do first of all is explain first of all the absence of notes. And what I mean by that is, in the other course, I was explaining how there are 3 notes in a chord in a key. I'm going to quickly throw that all up again now very quickly. We'll start with, let's pick the key of G, very common guitar key. Let's throw up all the notes in music. And now let's remove the ones that aren't in the key of G by using our tone, tone, semitone rule. Then we get our notes in G. And now each one of those becomes a chord. The first is major, the second's minor, the third's minor, etc. Watch the other videos if you want to see how that all falls into place. But we wind up with our chords in G. G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp minor, flat 5. That last one being a little bit jazzy, a little bit unlikely to come up in what you're playing at the moment if you're starting out with this. We're going to remove it. So we're left with G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. The chords in G. So, now you might be thinking, pardon me, you might be thinking, okay, in a G chord, I have the notes G, B, D. That's 3 notes, but on the guitar, there's 6 strings. So what am I filling in the others with? Well, the answer is, there are 3 notes in the chord G, G, B, and D, but you can double up and play some of those notes as many times as you want. So for instance, in a G chord here, I have G, B, D, G, D, G. I'm playing 3 Gs and 2 Ds and 1 B. So you double up. To get across all your 6 strings, whatever you're doing, you're going to be playing some of those notes twice. But essentially, the notes in the chord are still G, B, D. That isn't changed by the fact that you're playing some of them a few times. Now this might open a window for you, because you might have been told that you play a G chord like this, with the D in it down here, the 3rd fret of the B string. Then you might have read elsewhere, well hang on, no, I've been told to leave that B string open and just have like that, versus like that. The news is they're both G chords. One of them is adding in an extra D, one of them is adding in an extra B. They're still the notes G, B, D. So take your pick. At this point, it's like, which do you prefer to play? Or if you're trying to mimic exactly what someone else has done in a song, then you probably need to look up on YouTube or wherever, which version of G are they playing. But you'll notice throughout all of this, by the way, these things won't make a huge amount of difference to a song. If I was playing a song that went, and I changed to the other way of playing G with the open B string in it, it's a slight flavor, but if you're singing and playing along with other musicians, unless there's a really standout type of riff on the guitar, you're not really going to notice which version you're playing. But if you wanted it exact, look up what the original person that played the song, or if you're writing a song and jamming, which one do you prefer the sound of? If you have a look at another chord like E minor, like this, E, B, E, G, B, E. Now let's throw up the notes in an E minor chord on the screen here. E, G, and B. 3 notes. So obviously we're doubling up on a whole pile of them. E, B, E, G, B, E. 2 Bs, 3 E's, and a G. But it's still just the notes E, B, and G. E, G, B, rather. So you get the idea. When you're strumming across all the strings, you're going to be doubling up on notes, hitting them a few times. It doesn't change your key. If you're playing in G and you play the G chord, if you've got 3 G's in there, it doesn't matter. G is an allowed note in the key of G. It's part of the major scale. In fact, it's the root note of the whole key. It doesn't matter that you're playing 3 of them. You're still just playing notes within the key, so you're good to go. That's why all these chords have multiple cases. Another example, C. The notes in C are C, E, and G. Now you can either come down to the bottom string here and hit an E, or hit a G. I'm throwing in an E or a G. Either way, all it is, whoops, swap pickups there. All it is just choosing to throw in an extra E or an extra G. Either way, it's a C chord. So do it to taste. If you're jamming or if you're trying to play someone's exact part, then look up what they're doing. Do they have their finger on the G or are they throwing in the E? Either way, it's going to usually make just a slight difference to what you're doing. But this opens up the world to us of inversions. Do you remember, it probably still exists, I don't know, there was a game called Minesweeper where you just keep hitting on squares and hit a bomb, like that sort of thing. That's what the guitar neck is. It's like playing Minesweeper. And what I mean by that is there are so many notes. If you got the notes in a G chord, G, B, and D, and if you considered those to be the bombs, if you went like this up the fretboard, it wouldn't take too long till you explode. What I mean by that is G, B, and D are all over the neck, as is every other note in music. So if the notes in a G chord are G, B, and D, you can play your open chord here. It makes sense that somewhere around here you can also play them. It makes sense that somewhere around here you can also play them, somewhere here, somewhere here. You get the idea. As you go up the neck, there's all sorts of places you can play them. So if I was going to strum a song that I'd written in the key of G that went G, E minor, C, I could find those same chords. The idea. So it's like the notes G, B, and D in a G chord. Here, 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 here. They just keep going up the neck. So the theory doesn't change, but you have to get to know your neck. There's no quick way around it. You got to get to know all your notes in the neck. And so you have to know that the notes G, B, D are there. There's a G, B, and D. There's a G, B, and D. There's a G, B, and D. Like that, you can find them everywhere, which means that one simple chord progression can be all over the neck. Now, if you imagine what then happens with your scale. So you have your, or your, like that. Okay, there it is. But you've also got it all the way up here. You've got it up here. It's all over the place like that. So your G major scale, when you get around to really to getting to know your scales on the neck, is everywhere up the whole neck. So what that means is, I can be playing in G like this. I could also be playing like this. Like that. I could also be playing it up here. There's all these different places. Now, all that stuff seems more advanced. It is more advanced guitar playing wise, but not music theory wise. I was just playing in G, G minor C D with the G major scale. Like that. So this is what it comes down to when translating this stuff to guitar. First of all, remember that anywhere you're playing any combination of the notes in a chord, you're playing that chord. So even with like funk, a B minor chord can be here like this. It can also be like that. A C chord can be here. It can also be like that. So all this stuff you're hearing that sounds really cool and complicated and whatever, it can actually still just be in the key of G. It's nothing's changed. It's just you're seeing more complicated guitar. So if you want to get there quicker, then get your chord progressions in a key, play them wherever you can. Learn as many places to play your chords as you can. And here's a little trick for that. You know how bar chords work with E, E minor, A minor? Well, you can move any chord up. You can get a C and move it up. The same. Eventually you'll find yourself a G major chord here. Get to know where all your chords are. Get to know where all your notes are. That's a big start. Now in my guitar lesson stuff, I'm going to go through this bit by bit, but I'm hoping this bridges the gap on music theory and applying it to guitar. Hoping that bridges the gap a bit. I'll be doing this a lot more, but I hope that helps. One extra thing I was going to throw in, you've probably come across in pieces you're trying to play that you're looking up online or whatever, things like F major 7, C7, chords like that. And you're probably thinking, oh bugger, I don't know how to play that. So you leave it out and you move on. You do know how to play enough of that chord. We're going to cover in the music theory as we go along, major sevenths and sevenths and ninths, add 9, all these types of things. They're like embellishments on your basic chords. They're like a little bit of icing on top of the cake. So if you're supposed to play an F major 7 in a song and you just play an F, the song will be fine. It'll still be cool. You might be missing this one slight little flavor, but don't leave the chord out because you think, I don't know how to play that. Same with a 7 chord. When you get minor 7ths, just play the minor. If you get a minor 9, just play the minor. If you get a major 7, a major 9, an add 9, just play the major chord. These are all little colors that get added, and we'll cover all of that. But for the moment, you do know how to play these chords. Don't leave them out of the song. Just play the basic major or minor chord that the rest of that chord is built on. Yeah. So hopefully you didn't find that a bit too disconcerting. I'm jumping around the guitar all over the place, playing this, that, and everything else. The point of this video was to prove to you that all that stuff I was doing was just the basic chords and basic scale out of G major. All of the sort of technique you see me using, scales, bits and pieces, whatever, I'm going to cover that in the lessons coming up. So if you stick here on the channel, do the like and subscribe. Apparently there's a bell that you hit and that makes it even better. I don't know. But if you stay here and subscribe to the channel. All that stuff's going to be covered in time. This video is just a way of demonstrating to you that if you hear something that sounds complicated and fancy on guitar, there's every chance it's still just the major key. Flashy fingers, playing up here, all that sort of thing doesn't really break the rules of music theory. It could still just be the key. So stick around. Eventually I'll be rolling out lesson after lesson, getting everything I know out there, and all that stuff you will hopefully be able to do soon enough.